Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz at Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Labor Day. Done this show before, Beck. 3 years running.
Yep.
It's not fun.
No, it's not.
I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. The vibes in the building stink. There's like 8 of us here. Nobody wants to be here all that much. Everybody's hungover or mad or both, or just doesn't really want to be at work while it's sunny outside and you could be at the pool. And we're talking about LSU starting a 5th consecutive football season 0-1. But let's do it. We got plenty to talk about over the next 2 hours. We are going to have Denton Day coming up 30 minutes from right now to talk about the national weekend that was in college football. We'll throw some Saints in there as well, but it's a lot of LSU and USC, unfortunately, after last night's disappointing opener out in the desert. Look, I said leading up to the game all week that I thought it was going to come down to 2 things. I thought it was going to come down to how well USC threw it and how well LSU ran it. And when the dust settled, USC had rolled up 378 passing yards, but more importantly, they were able to throw it when they needed to. Late in the game, after LSU had taken a lead, they went right down the field in 3 plays for a touchdown, and then on the final and decisive drive, they hit some big plays through the air and ultimately finished it off on the ground. But they threw it with a lot of success, and they made some huge plays through the air. The talent at wide receiver was obvious for them. It wasn't just Zachariah Branch, who LSU did a pretty good job on. It was the whole cast of characters for Miller Moss, and Southern Cal threw it really well. That's one part of the equation. The second is how well did LSU run it? And quite frankly, the running game stunk. Like, you can look at the statistics and go, oh, well, they ran it for 117 yards. That's pretty good. And that tells part of the story. But you heard Will Campbell last week. You heard him say, we're not there to go to Caesar's Palace. We're there to get in a fist fight. You heard him say, we're going to run the ball. We're not trying to hide that. We're going to make sure that we run the football. And LSU ran the football effectively for about a minute and a half of real time. In that minute and a half of real time, John Emery busted loose for one big play, and then he had a 10-yarder 2 plays later. That was 49 yards of LSU's running game, and it looked like at that point, with Emery's fresh legs in the game, you're going, okay, this is what I thought I was going to see. LSU's going to take control from this point in the middle of the third quarter and run the ball down USC's throat like everyone else has done for 2 years. Washington did it. Arizona did it. Cal did. Everybody has run it right down USC's throat. LSU's going to lean on them and do that in this game. Well, that never happened. You take those 2 runs away, which were well blocked and well executed and looked very effective. But if you take those 2 away, LSU's tailbacks ran the ball 23 times for 63 yards. That is 2.7 yards per carry. Josh Williams averaged 3.7 yards per carry. Not a ton to write home about. Caleb Jackson, huge talent, guy that's going to break out this year behind the best offensive line in college football. And I'll throw air quotes around that. Caleb Jackson's long run on the night in 6 carries was 4 yards. 15 of the tailback's 25 carries went for 3 or fewer yards, more than half. Only 4 times did they get 8 or more. They could not get chunk plays. They could not create a balance and a rhythm in the running game. They couldn't be consistent. They couldn't lean on USC. It was completely and totally ineffective the majority of the night. And when you absolutely had to have the running game, in basically 2 instances, it did not show up. You had to have the running game like everyone does in the red zone. And LSU could not run the ball in the red zone. And then what I thought was maybe the most pivotal play of the game was LSU with a 3-point lead, just under 7.5 minutes to go in the game. You've got 2nd and 15. You hit Kamorian Pimpton for a 14-yard gain. You've got an opportunity to go down there, take a 2-score lead, and put a stranglehold on this game. And you've got a 3rd and 1, and you rush to the line of scrimmage, and they hand it to Emory. Pimpton misses a block, and he gets leveled in the backfield. And you've got a punt. And you punted, and they came right down the field in 3 plays and took the lead. But you had a chance to take the lead behind that running game, and you couldn't execute the short yardage run. There are a lot of reasons why a running game can fail. You can fail to block it. A back can fail to see the lane or execute the cut. A defensive player can make a really good play. A defensive coordinator can stack the box. There are plenty of reasons why an individual running play doesn't work. And so you can't really boil everything down to one play. But when I look at this game and LSU's output from the running backs, and I go back to the same freaking 3 games that I have talked about for a month on this radio program. Last year, Florida State, Alabama, and A&M could not run the football with the running backs. So this is not one play. This is not one coordinator. This is not one matchup. This is a sample size that is representative enough for me to come here and tell you this offensive line is overhyped. They are exceptional in pass protection. Will Campbell has given up 2 sacks in 2 years. Emory Jones is a great pass protector. They kept Jaden Daniels upright all of last year. He won the Heisman Trophy. They kept Garrett Nussmeier upright last night. They didn't allow a sack. They are excellent in pass protection. They are not good in running the football. They were not good last year. I thought entering the season, I'm going, okay, last year they didn't have to be that good at it because you had Superman back there in the backfield and he was going to come out of the phone booth and he was going to show up and save the day. He would take it 85 yards against Florida and then weave through for another 50-yard touchdown. It didn't really matter. Well, you knew entering this season that guy wasn't there, so you were going to get more creative in the run game. You were going to commit to it more, and you were going to lean on that. Well, they had an entire offseason to come up with a game plan, and the output was very pedestrian. We talked all offseason about this offensive line being the backbone of LSU. And guess what? It is not in the run game. They have got significant issues. And you don't want to overreact over one game. This isn't one game. It dates back to last year. It's the same cast of characters. Take one center out, put a new one in there. They don't run block with a ton of physicality. LSU's offensive identity is finesse, and they're good at it. They were good at it last year with all the playmakers we've been talking about, and they threw it all over the yard today. If I would have told you that LSU, in this game, Garrett Nussmeier would complete 78% of his throws, throw for over 300 yards, and not get sacked, you'd go, oh, that's a really good start. You figure LSU will run the ball. LSU's going to score 40 points in that game. Nope. Because you were kind of one-dimensional. You popped 2 good runs with Emory. Everything else, not real good on the ground. And that was a concern of mine entering the game, and it played out that way on the field. Yes, Southern Cal deserves credit for a new defense and a new defensive coordinator that played more physically, and they obviously instituted some of the principles that made UCLA such a good run defense last year. But make no mistake, there are a lot of the same guys out there on that defense on the front, not on the back end, but on the front that were there last year, and they could not stop a nosebleed on the ground. Everybody in the Pac-12 ran up and down the field. LSU couldn't establish it. Short passing game? Yeah, sure. Kyron Lacey in the first half? Fantastic. Mason Taylor when they needed it? Yep. It wasn't all a total failure, but I am done sitting here and telling you that LSU's got the most dominant offensive line in the country and they're going to assert their will and they're going to be dumb. No, they're really good at pass protection and they'll keep Garrett Nussmeier upright and he's going to throw for a crap ton of yards. But if you can't run the ball in the red zone and you can't get yards when you need them, you will lose close games. And that's what happened here. The biggest story for me entering this game was how well does USC throw it? They threw it really, really well. Made big plays, did it when they had to. How well does LSU run it? Like crap. And that's the outcome. It's just really, really frustrating if you're an LSU fan to have this happen 5 years in a row. And I feel on one hand so badly for the people that traveled to Las Vegas to have to fly home with that kind of emotion. On the other hand, I'm really jealous because it seems like LSU's fans had a blast up there for 3 days. I was kind of living vicariously through it all. I've got friends up there. My parents are up there. I'm getting videos, seeing pictures. Social media is flooding my feed. People at the pool, people at the steakhouse, people at the game, tailgating. Mandalay Bay was on fire. Got people taking pictures in front of the pregame show and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it seems like LSU absolutely showed out. And there is very little that's more fun than that. The last time I kind of was in that type of environment was Omaha a couple summers ago. And it's just incredible. And obviously that had a much happier ending than this. But man, what a cool thing to fly across the country and be surrounded by that many people in purple and gold. It was an excellent, excellent showing from LSU up in Vegas as far as the fan base goes. And unfortunately, you come on back and you're as disappointed as you've been the last 5 years. It was funny. I chuckled last night because I usually give my post-game monologue on the LSU Sports Radio Network. And I give it a lot of thought between the time it goes final and we start. There's about 30 minutes. But now with my LouisianaSports.net responsibilities, I was trying to get a story up and didn't have as much time to go into kind of a monologue. I mean, I had my statistics and I knew what we wanted to talk about, but didn't have that much time. But it just kind of popped in my head like 90 seconds to air. Kind of feels like Groundhog Day. It's the same type deal. And I opened with It's Groundhog Day on the LSU Sports Radio Network. And then I watched Whiskey and Wine when I got home, and Matt opened with It's Groundhog Day. And then I went on Twitter, and Garland Gillen, who's up there for television station in New Orleans, started with It's Groundhog Day for LSU. Everybody kind of feels the same. It's a feeling that we have now felt 5 years in a row, and that seems almost impossible to fathom after what we witnessed from 2002 to 2016. LSU never lost these games. Never. Not one. Not a single one. From the Virginia Tech game in 2002 all the way to the Wisconsin game in Lambeau in 2016, LSU won them all for 14 years, and now it seems like they can't get out of their own way.
We ended the Bama curse in 2019.
Yeah.
But we started the opening game curse in 2020.
This opening game thing, man. I mean, not that it's a lot of fun to beat
Nichols.
Pine Bluff 70-0 like Arkansas did. Like, that's not a lot of fun, and Saturday's not going to be a ton of fun. But it beats the brakes off of this, man. This is just brutal. And guess who's right around the corner? Clemson. And it ain't Clemson from 5 years ago. I get it. But it's on the road, and they're going to have a bunch of 5-stars out there. It's just not a great way to spend a holiday. I'm a little frustrated. Can you sense that?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I'm frustrated too, but I think, I don't know, man. We had so much expectations for this game, but at the end of the day, this is 5 years in a row. It's become a trend, and it's something that we probably should have anticipated a little bit.
I will say this. I'll just be full disclosure, cards on the table. I was concerned about LSU's ability to cover, and I said that a lot, and I was quite frankly concerned about LSU's ability to run the ball.
Yeah. I
had done these segments in camp, but I talked myself into last week, like, no, they're going to get physical and they're going to go do it. This is not Bama they're playing. It's Southern Cal. And it's the same, like, it's the trap that I talk about all the time where your optimism naturally cranks up right before that opener.
Yeah.
And I even talk about that. And there's also a piece of me, and this is, again, me laying my cards on the table, there's a piece of me that's like, no one wants to listen to you complain and be negative right before the season opener. Like, no one wants to hear that.
No.
And that played a part in some of the things that I talked about. Like, I'm not too proud to admit that, but there was a concern of that. And I was just, they just could not get a push. I'm sitting there watching the game, and I'm just like, they're just not able to consistently do it. And when they had to have the run game, it just wasn't there. So That's a huge loss there for the Tigers, who fall to 0-1, and we'll be talking about it a ton. We'll get with Denton Day here in 15 minutes. I've got 3 plays that I thought were massive in the game. We'll talk about those when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Never let that power go out. Give yourself the peace of mind of knowing that a bit of a hurricane, one of those summer storms, even an ice storm in the winter, that you're not going to lose power because you've got a home standby generator from the folks over at Boudreaux's Electrical. You're never going to hear me come on when I'm talking about Neil Melissa's company there, Boudreaux's Electrical, and talk about a VIP package or some premium package you can upgrade to at Boudreaux's Electrical. That's not the way they do business. If you're a client of Boudreaux's Electrical, you're going to be treated like a VIP. Everyone's treated the exact same. That's how you keep a business rocking and rolling down here in South Louisiana for 4 decades. Every Boudreaux's Electrical client with generator that they purchase will get a 7 to 10 year warranty on that Generac generator. That means you got peace of mind of knowing that that's going to be right there at your home or your business for a decade. And you're going to keep that power on in the event of those storms. You can give them a call at 985-397-1562. That's 985-397-1562. Or in the 225 area code, the new Gonzales location, 225-300-9389. That's 225-300-9389. Check them out online as well, boudreauxelectrical.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has back-to-school savings like $16,000 off 25 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $16,000 off. All new Bayou vehicles come with a complimentary extended warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Monday show is brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com, GCOPnet.com. Your printing, scanning, copying needs, Gulf Coast Office Products has got you covered. Trey Beal and the gang, fantastic people. you haven't given any thought to why you have the printer, scanner, copier that you have, maybe do so. Give our friends of Gulf Coast Office Products a call and see if they can't better service your needs. GCOPnet.com. The plays that I thought were the most impactful in the game, we'll kind of tick them off one by one here. And I'll go, I guess, in chronological order. The first was obviously LSU's drive down the field in the opening drive, where they go right down the field, 13 plays, took over 7 minutes off the clock, and you've got 4th and goal at the 3-yard line. Here's the deal. Brian Kelly believes in his core that there is a huge advantage in a football game if you take the football and go score a touchdown. Now, I know that a lot of you are rolling your eyes, but he means it more than just, it's 7-0. He thinks it sets a tone, and statistically speaking, the team that goes down and gets an opening drive touchdown wins a significant amount of the time. He believes that to his core. That's why he takes the football, and that's why he plays very aggressively on that first drive. He plays more aggressively on the first drive than he does in the third quarter. We've seen it. We saw it last year against Florida State. We saw it this year against USC. They went for an early 4th down, picked it up, went for another 4th down. I personally don't see it that way. I want the football coming out of halftime. If I'm down 14 points, I want the football coming out of halftime. If I'm up 14 points, I want the ball coming out of halftime. There's a possibility for a double dip around the half. I want that. I would prioritize that. He doesn't. And he believes in it, and I think he understands that a lot of people don't, and I think that makes him believe it even more. And there's a stubbornness to this that I was alerted to by some Notre Dame fans that I know very well. They said, watch, when you win tosses, you will take the football. And they're going to keep doing it. So you can yell and scream and complain kind of like I'm doing right now, but it's not going to do any good. He's going to do that. And I don't believe in going for a 4th and 3. 4th in the nose of the football, sure. 4th and a foot, sure. 4th and goal from the inch line, okay. Let's try to punch it in. 3 yards where you're not going to run it, so you're going to have to complete a pass, and you've crunched the field down to nothing. That's just a little risky for my blood, and it didn't pay off. I'll go now to the second half of the game in the play that I talked about in the first segment, but I'll rehash it here. After the catch to Pimpton that set up the 3rd and 1, LSU not being able to get a yard there to continue that drive and potentially go down and take a 2-score lead was just a massive point in the game, and LSU was unable to capitalize. LSU would punt, and USC took it right down in 3 plays and retook the lead. That was huge. Then a play that I haven't heard a lot of people talk a ton about, but it really stuck out to me in the moment. LSU was driving on what it became the game-tying field goal drive that tied it at 20 late. And you were getting down inside the red zone. It was 2nd and 8 from the 14-yard line, and Nussmeier rolled to the near side, and Aaron Anderson was right there in the flat, and he just flat whiffed it. I thought Nuss played a good game. He wasn't perfect. He threw off his back foot a couple times. He bailed a couple of times. He wasn't perfect, but I thought he played a good game. This was a terrible throw. I could have made the throw. It was an 8-yard flick to a wide-open receiver right in front of him. And he just missed it. And I don't know that Aaron Anderson turns it up from the 10 and goes and scores, but it would have been, at the very least, if Anderson catches it, 3rd and very manageable instead of 3rd and 8. And you've got a chance to go down there and score a touchdown and win this thing. And that throw, I thought, was a massive, massive miss for LSU that tilted things the wrong way. And then the last big play of the game was obviously the throw down the left sideline that Miller Moss dropped in the bucket to Kyron Hudson, who hauled it in with one hand right inside the 30-yard line. Garden Gilbert comes in with the targeting foul, and you get it down to what would have been chip shot field goal range. Not that they were perfect on chip shots. They missed one, but you got in a chip shot field goal range, and inevitably USC ran it in. But that was... I have a hard time faulting Blake Baker and the LSU defense for that play. You were in a reasonable coverage. You were in good position to make a play on the ball. The throw was excellent, and Kyron Hudson made one of his 2 sensational catches in the game to kind of ice it. And that's great players. We talked about all week when previewing USC that they've got dudes on the outside. LSU did a reasonable job on Branch. LSU did a reasonable job on specific plays, but that talent's going to win out sometimes. And those dudes just went up and made some catches, and that was a huge play that got exacerbated by the targeting foul. So I thought those, to me, were the 4 biggest plays of the game. There were others, and I could probably rattle off 10, but those I thought were the most impactful, and those are the ones that I included in my kind of post-game wrap over at LouisianaSports.net. There's a ton of content up there right now on .net. I got a post-game wrap that went up about 5 minutes after it went final. I wrote a column on the running game, also wrote kind of a sidebar story on LSU's defense. Chris Marler wrote a positive spin piece for LSU that's up on the site as well. So if you're looking to wallow in some more misery about LSU's football game last night, and you don't want to hear me yap, you just want to do it in print, you can find all that for free over at LouisianaSports.net. Just a gut punch to LSU. There's still plenty that we want to get to on this game. I want to talk about the penalties. I want to talk about the new defense. I want to talk about Garrett Nussmeier. There's a lot to do, and there is some positive, believe it or not, and we'll certainly get to all that. We still also have to talk about the weekend that was in the Southeastern Conference. We'll do that in the second hour. So hope your Labor Day is going well. Hope you're not in at the office. You're enjoying some time outside with the family. We're off to a start here for the week, and we'll be running our regular scheduled program all week long. So we'll be with you until 3 o'clock this afternoon. Come on back with us. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Here, Labor Day edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We're brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products, usually in the second hour, but bumping things up to the first hour here for Denton Day, talking national college football. Happy Labor Day, Denton. How are you?
Hunt, I'm good, man. I would say I hope you guys are doing well, but I can imagine this is one of the drearier Mondays that you're going to have this year.
It's an annual thing now. We just get sad every opening day. 5 years in a row, we've lost the opener, and it's terrible, and it's like Groundhog's Day, and I don't really want to be here talking about it, but here we are.
It's one of those things where you're happy college football is back, and then a couple hours after, you're like, well, I could have waited a week or two.
Look, here's the deal, and like I've been upfront, and I've talked about this a lot. People are probably tired of hearing it, but like it is my little small complaint about the nature of college football. Losses in this sport are more penal than any sport I can think of. Like if you're a big NBA fan, you lose 30 games, who cares? If you're a baseball fan, your team lose 80 games. You're a college basketball fan, you lose 10 or 12, no big deal. Like in football, the second you lose a game, man, it is just you are up against it, and it creates all the drama, which is fantastic. But then you're on the other side of it, and you're sitting here like this sucks.
Yeah, my favorite bit during the NBA season is watching people complain about losses in like November. I'm like, guys, you got to be kidding! Like you don't understand the pain of like a 1-point loss in November for the NBA versus any kind of loss any time in college football.
It's tough. What did you see? I'll be more specific than that. How'd you feel about the way the LSU defense played last night?
You know, I really thought they played all right for the first half, and then once the offense started to struggle and put them in positions where they were constantly on the field, I thought you started to see them break a little bit. You saw the weaknesses kind of come to the forefront. I'm not blaming the offense by any stretch. I mean, look, you have to tackle, you have to play disciplined football. Some of the penalties they were taking late in the game were killer. But I didn't think it was as bad as I was anticipating it was going to be. I think there was a couple of good things in there. It's just the way that it ended obviously makes it hurt a little bit more.
We're all going to sit here and talk about LSU and LSU and LSU. You can watch it through the lenses of paying attention to both teams. I mean, what did you see from Lincoln Riley's program last night?
I was stunned at how impressive they were at the line of scrimmage. My entire offseason was spent almost lambasting USC, thinking that they weren't going to have what it takes to win at the line of scrimmage in a league like the Big Ten, and then to do what they did last night, where it felt like they had a good offensive and defensive line. I was stunned by that. I can't believe it took them this long, and it took Lincoln Riley this long to finally realize that defense is beneficial. I mean, he squandered how many quarterbacks? You know, Kyler, Baker, Hurts.
Jalen Hurts, yeah.
Last year, Caleb, like, you squandered so many quarterbacks to finally realize, wow, if you play defense, like, your life is going to be significantly easier.
What did you say from LSU's offense? Garrett Nussmeier at quarterback and all that went into that.
I'm sure I feel very similar to you guys. I loved Skyron Lacey in the first half. I would have loved to see him a lot more in the second half. It felt like the offense started to stall when they got away from things that were working in the first half and tried to switch things up in the second half. And I understand you want to run the football. Having a dominant presence in the run game is crucial, especially in the league that you guys play in. But I really would have liked to see them continue to let Nussmeier push the ball down the field. And I thought the second half, Brian Kelly was mad after the game. He should have been mad after the game, but I hope he looks back at the way that the offense moved in the second half and realized you can't do that anymore.
All right, let's talk about some of the games around the country. Notre Dame goes to Kyle Field and gets a pretty impressive win. That defense looked really good. What'd you see?
The defense looks really good. Connor Wegman, I'm so out on. I didn't know how I felt about him at the beginning of the season. I'm so out on him. I'm so out on Texas A&M. I was stunned at the clock mismanagement at the end of the second half by Mike Elko. It didn't cost them the game, but I think it cost them a better opportunity and a little bit more comfort on that final drive than they ended up having. So I don't like Texas A&M at all. I really like Riley Leonard as a quarterback. I didn't know what to anticipate, and I think towards the end of that game, you started to see flashes of what he was at Duke when he was playing his best football. So if they can kind of build their way up and have him do that on a regular basis, I would say when their schedule gets hard, but let's be honest, Notre Dame's schedule is not very hard at all at any point this season. So they effectively clinched their spot in the college football playoff. I hate talking about the playoff after week 1, but that schedule, I mean, if they lose more than one game on that schedule, they don't deserve to be in the playoff.
Do you think they're a national title contender or just a team that's going to be in the playoffs?
No, just a team that's going to be in the playoff. I still don't think they have enough skill at the wide receiver position. And, once you go up against these teams like a Georgia, like an Ohio State, or whoever else ends up being really good this year, you're going to need explosiveness on the outside, and I don't think as of right now they have that.
Did you learn more about Georgia or Clemson on Saturday?
That's a great question because I knew Clemson wasn't going to be all that impressive this week. I hammered Georgia on that 13.5, and that line came down to like 10.5 by the time the game kicked off, and I was stunned. Sometimes you are just smarter than people in Vegas and people who put loads of money down on the game because we know what Clemson is. Like, if you follow college football, you are very much aware that Dabo Swinney, for whatever reason, hates the transfer portal. What I can't wrap my head around is that he's old school enough to hate the transfer portal, but not old school enough to think that his quarterback could use some competition during the offseason. I mean, they have no other answer behind Cade Klubnik at that position. I don't know how they anticipate or how they expect it all to win and be the Clemson of old if they do not have anybody pushing a quarterback that already wasn't very good. So I guess I learned a little bit more about them, but I already knew that they were going to let me down this weekend.
Is Georgia clearly the best team in the country?
As of right now, yes. I think once week 1 is always tough because, Ohio State beating Akron, Bama winning the way that they did, Ole Miss beating Furman, we didn't get a really good idea and understanding of who some of the other better teams were. So because Georgia did what they did to Clemson, I would say right now, yes. But once we get a bigger sample size for the teams that I have high expectations for, I think that answer is going to change.
I would have welcomed Western Kentucky or Toledo, whoever, into Tiger Stadium over the weekend. That would have been a delight to watch that stadium empty out in the middle of the third quarter up 50. But no such luck for us here in Baton Rouge. All right, Miami, really impressive. Florida, really not impressive. What'd you take away from that one?
I think Cam Ward right now is probably the quarterback I trust the most in college football. That's the issue that I found myself having on Saturday, Hunt. I went into Saturday and I was like, all right, which quarterbacks do I really trust in college football? And the answer was not a lot. Not knowing what Cam was going to look like and still having some questions about like a Jackson Dart or like a Will Howard at Ohio State. But Cam Ward in a hostile environment, I don't believe him, by the way, when he says that USC was louder. I don't believe that for a second. But trash talk is going to trash talk, and I'm all for the pettiness of rivalries and lying to make things hurt a little bit more. But I was really impressed with what he was able to do with real talent around him. I'm not saying that Miami is back, but I am saying that if they play with the swagger that they had this weekend all season, they're at least going to be fun to watch.
Well, let's talk about Florida. I mean, where do they go from here?
Oh, God, I have no idea. I mean, I feel bad for Billy Napier. I don't like calling for guys' jobs, but I think we all recognize he's not going to be there by the end of the season. Somebody is going to put up the amount of money that is going to take to buy him out of that contract. It stinks because I thought he was a really good coach before he got to Florida, and for whatever reason, and I'm sure it's a lot of different reasons, it just has not worked out there. I can't believe they still have Graham Mertz at quarterback. I mean, that guy has been living off of one really good game in a pandemic 4 years ago, and he's still starting at Florida. I don't know how that's the case, but they need to get to the Lagway as soon as possible because Graham Mertz is just not going to. He's not going to help Billy Napier's job.
Yeah, I'm shocked that that's the product Billy Napier's putting out there in year 3. I realize that Dan Mullen isn't exactly, Kirby Smart or Nick Saban on the recruiting trail and that it wasn't a stock shelf. But 3 years in with the transfer portal open and that program behind you, to have that little talent on the field is shocking to me.
It was shocking, and then the fact that Miami was then trying to steal their recruits after.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that kind of pettiness. That's why we love this sport, but you have to be unbelievably embarrassed. I will say this, though. I feel for Billy Napier with the water bottle thing. If you've ever been in that position where a water bottle is not opening, even in the comfort of your own home, it sucks. But doing that in front of people, I can't imagine the anger that was flowing through him when that damn bottle top wasn't opening.
That was quite a tough scene. How about Vanderbilt getting a win over Virginia Tech? What did you take away from that one?
I was stunned because I had Virginia Tech winning the ACC. Now that's still a possibility, but I mean, you lost to Vanderbilt. Like, Vanderbilt of all schools. I mean, Diego Pavia is great. He's a gamer. But Vanderbilt, are you kidding me? Virginia Tech, in the area in which I live, which I'm not a Virginia Tech fan, but a lot of people around here are, I don't know how. Because there's no team in this area that has higher expectations that continually fall short like Virginia Tech.
It's not a great Week 2 slate here that's coming up, but Texas and Michigan will play in the Big House. How do you see that one shaking out next weekend?
I'm laying Texas with a 6.5. I don't think Michigan has enough offense, and I really like Quinn Ewers. I think some of the wide receivers that they came over from the transfer portal looked good against Colorado State. Of the blowouts, that was probably the most impressive win this weekend, just because I think Colorado State was the best of the teams that got blown out. So I think Texas is going to handle Michigan with relative ease this weekend.
Denton, thanks for making some time for us on this Labor Day. We'll talk next week, man.
Hunt, appreciate it as always, my friend. Be well.
Denton Day, College Football Overtime host on SiriusXM with us every single Monday, kind of talking about the national landscape of college football. And again, it's not a good slate for Week 2. You got Texas, Michigan, and then I'm kind of rolling through the ranked games like Bowling Green, Penn State, Arkansas, Oklahoma State, if that helps you out in Stillwater. Probably not. Kansas State is coming uptown. They're playing Tulane, so that's fairly interesting, I guess. And then I got to really reach for what's the next game that may interest anybody. Like Georgia Tech, Syracuse do anything for you? I don't think so. So it's not a good slate for Week 2. And, of course, LSU will welcome Nichols in, so that's not going to get anybody all fired up either. Be stress-free if that's what you're looking for after last night, but it's not going to be super, super entertaining. All right, when we come back, we'll hear from sound from Brian Kelly last night. Come back with us on a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. It could be a full-scale bathroom or closet renovation, or it could be something simple like a tub-to-shower conversion. If you never use your bathtub, if you don't take a bath, you're talking about, what is that, Kramer on Seinfeld? It says, I'm laying in a tepid pool of my own filth. That's not your thing. You don't want to do the bath. You take a shower. Well, take the bathtub out. If it's old and dingy, they can get rid of it. Put in a gorgeous new glass walk-in shower. Changes the aesthetic of your bathroom. Changes the functionality of your bathroom. Add a little value to that home as well. Could really be a game changer for you, but you won't know if you could do it unless you go to One Bath and Closets and get that free consultation. Tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you. $1,000 off of your project over at One Bath and Closets. The website's onebathandclosets.com. You can get the consultation there. You can see pictures of their fantastic work. You can see the testimonials from their satisfied customers. It's David Duvall and his team at One Bath and Closets. Onebathandclosets.com.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Closing up hour number 1 here. We will get to my Southeastern Conference picks against the spread. Picked every game in the SEC outside of LSU over the weekend, so we'll talk about that and all the action in the SEC at the top of hour number 2. Got some sound from Brian Kelly that we'll get to in hour number 2 as well. Saints absence at training camp today. Not training camp, it's practice today. They got a game this week, so Saints in absence. We'll talk about that a little bit later on as well. I think a lot of you by now have seen the audio or video from Brian Kelly's press conference last night. You've seen him kind of banging on the table, and he was visibly frustrated with the way that his team performed in multiple facets of the game last night. He talked about his offense not doing enough to help the defense. He talked about the defense having warts, and it's not a change that's going to be made overnight. He talked about Garrett Nussmeier. He talked about the team's killer instinct. He talked about a lot of different topics, but penalties was one that he brought up as well. And, you know, I'm generally pretty tepid on my penalties takes, especially when it goes to pinning everything on the coach, because oftentimes I feel like guys just make mistakes, and that's just part of the physical nature of the game. Like when LSU was atrocious on special teams a couple of years ago, just awful. Like, I'm not going to blame the coach when you jump off sides on the kickoff. Like, everyone knows the rule there. The coach is obviously communicating. Like, that's just a guy screwing up, and it happens. But some penalties are worthy of some significant criticism. And Brian Kelly talked last night about the 10 penalties that his team committed.
Well, I mean, I've already commented on the 2 personal foul penalties. They impacted the game, and they're from veterans and from guys that know better and are leaders. And I have to look at myself and say I have to do better because they're not getting the message. You know, we had the 2 penalties there. You know, clearly that impact those 2 penalties impacted the game. You know, we had a couple of false start penalties. We had a PI that, you know, I thought one was clearly a PI. The other one was, you know, could have gone either way. 10 is too many. Let's put it that way. 10 is too many, but 2 personal foul penalties that set up scores is unacceptable.
Look, not all penalties are created equal. You reach out and hold somebody on the offensive line, you know, that's going to happen sometimes. I'm not going to blow a gasket. I hope you don't do it, but I'm not going to blow a gasket. What you can't have is Kyron Lacey firing off a gun in the end zone after a touchdown catch and costing you 15 yards, so then you have to kick it to Zachariah Branch and he busts it up to midfield. You can't do that. That's unacceptable. You can't have Major Burns in his 5th year of college football taking his helmet off on the field. That is so avoidable, and it's just not thinking. You can't do that. Get a 15-yard penalty there. Can't have it. Major Burns, again, coming on a blitz, and he jumps off sides and gives a free play to Miller Moss so he can chuck it up there, and it's a touchdown catch. That's just not focusing. Again, there are some penalties that I can live with. I'm not super pumped that Will Campbell is getting a false start penalty, but he can't hear the quarterback. Like, that's tough. But jumping off sides, there's no need for that. Taking your helmet off, no. Firing a gun in the end zone, no. You can't do that. And these are not freshmen who have been getting away with this their entire lives and are on the biggest stage they've ever seen. These are guys, as Brian Kelly just said, that have been out there for 4 and 5 years. You've got to be smarter than that. Got to be smarter than that. Jordan Gilbert gets a targeting foul. I'm not going to lose my mind over that. He's trying to make a play on the football. By the nature of that position, you're going to lead with your helmet. You can't tackle anybody. You're not allowed to trip people, so you have to move forward. And at times, it's a bang-bang play, and you're trying to make it down the sideline, and you get to helmet-to-helmet contact, and that sucks, and it's 15 yards, and he's got to sit out the first half. But that's a guy that's trying to make a play. Firing off a gun in the end zone is not trying to make a play. Taking your helmet off is not trying to make a play. And that stuff is frustrating. And quite honestly, like, you can suggest that it's Brian Kelly's fault that these guys are acting this way on the field. But my instinct is to go, they're 22, 23 years old. Just keep your head. I don't think that has to be coached. Maybe a freshman who makes the biggest play of his life unknowingly takes his helmet off, because you could do that in high school at some point, and he just didn't know the rule, and he should have, and that should have been communicated. Well, these guys have been around for 4 years, man. You can't take your helmet off on the field. Don't do it. I'm not going to lose sleep over the fact that LSU, Wes Weeks, told the guys to shift, and that shift caused the offensive line for Florida State, for USC to move, and you got the disconcerting signals from the defense offsides. Like, I thought that was good play from LSU. I think you ought to be able to tell your defensive lineman to shift, and I thought that USC jumped, and that's the way it should be. But the rules say you can't do stuff like that, so there you are. But that penalty doesn't bother me. The other ones do, and they obviously bothered Brian Kelly. And if you're going to be, the 2011 LSU Tigers, you can overcome that. If you're going to be Georgia, you could overcome that and beat teams by 30. This LSU team is not good enough to do that. And if you put yourself in adverse situations because you can't behave yourself on the field, you're going to lose games. I mean, it seems like no big deal that Kyron Lacey's doing the gunshot thing, but you back up, and instead of kicking it out of the end zone like you did every other time, Branch gets a chance to field it and busts a big one. He almost scored a touchdown. Great job in the first half for 9 catches and scoring a touchdown, but don't do that. It's just frustrating, and I'm sure Brian Kelly's really frustrated. I'm sure he'll have plenty to say about it when the team reconvenes, likely today, I guess, because it's Monday. They would generally have Sunday kind of quote-unquote off to recover and do some of that stuff. But now in a game week on a Monday, they probably got to get out there and practice today. So tough. Can't have penalties. Got to clean it up. And certainly can't have the ones like LSU had. They're just completely and utterly unforced. And that's what you had last night far, far too often. There'll be more Brian Kelly sound that we'll get to in hour number 2, talking about the offensive execution, lack of a killer instinct. A lot of those things really frustrated the head coach last night, and we'll talk a little bit about that. My SEC picks against the spread. As you know, we started things up last Thursday with a 2-0 start. So we were already doing quite well easing into the weekend. I've also got some storylines from the games that we saw over the weekend with Texas A&M and Notre Dame, as well as Miami and Florida. Vandy getting a win. That's on LSU's schedule. South Carolina looked a little rough, so we'll talk about all that in hour number 2. Our Monday shows are brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. GCOPnet.com is where you can find them. All your printing, scanning, copying needs. Gulf Coast Office Products. If you missed any of the first hour, you can catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, you can find us. You can always find us on YouTube as well. Got 2 channels as we're now into football season. We got a game in the rearview mirror for LSU. Got one coming up on Sunday for the Saints. It's Hunt on LSU for your LSU content. It's Hunt on Saints for your Saints content. All of it kind of boiled down to 10-minute segments right there on your homepage if you subscribe up to the channel. So we certainly do appreciate all of that. I want to invite you to check out LouisianaSports.net as well. LouisianaSports.net's got a ton of things up right now. My post-game column on the rushing game. Got a sidebar up there about the LSU defense. We'll talk a little bit more about that in hour number 2. Also, Chris Marlar's got a piece up called One Nice Thing. And Saints had a practice absence today. Willie Gay Jr. not there. Ross Jackson's updated that on the top of the page as well. So check it out over at LouisianaSports.net. All right, we're going to break for Sports Center. Come back with hour number 2, some SEC against the spread picks. Happy Labor Day. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has back-to-school savings like $16,000 off 25 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $16,000 off. All new Bayou vehicles come with a complimentary extended warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Sports Center.
I'm Christine Lisi. One last game in college football's first full weekend of the season. 10th-ranked Florida State looking to rebound from the season-opening upset loss to Georgia Tech. Hosts Boston College tonight, 7:30 Eastern, ESPN. Georgia edge rusher Michael Williams, considered a potential top 5 pick in next year's NFL draft. Grade 2 ankle sprain, questionable Saturday against Tennessee Tech. Florida highly touted quarterback DJ Lagway taking first-team reps today. The status of QB Graham Mertz uncertain against Samford Saturday. He was knocked out of the home loss to Miami with a concussion. That 24-point defeat, worst home loss in Gainesville for Coach Billy Napier.
I think it's just a challenge to each part of your building, each person. Not only football players now, we're talking about staff members as well. And you got to use it, and I think that's the key.
NFL Chiefs place running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the non-football injury list. He'll miss the first 4 games of the season until he's eligible to return. Dolphins receivers Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, banged up over the summer, return to practice today.
Hi, this is Evan Cohen. Join us Tuesday at 6 a.m. Eastern for Unsportsmanlike. Week 1 of the NFL season is here. Jamar Chase still not practicing. Where is Hassan Reddick? We'll get all of the inside info leading into Thursday night's opener with Adam Schefter. Tuesday, 6 a.m. Eastern on Unsportsmanlike. ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Happy Labor Day, y'all. Hope you're enjoying a little bit of time off in the sun with the family. We're talking a little bit of football, trying to get through it, a little bit of a therapy session. I didn't have to do the show at 5 o'clock in the morning like Jacob and T-Bob did out west, so you take the small victories in life. I guess they were done by their time at 8 o'clock in the morning, so that's also kind of a victory. But then they got to fly halfway across the country as well, and I'll just be heading right on down Nicholson to the house and might even go to the pool later. So we're going to make this a good day, even though last night was not a ton of fun. Let's veer away from the LSU discussion here at the top of hour number 2, and let's talk about the Southeastern Conference in Week 1. I pick every game against the spread. Did so starting Thursday with the 2 games. Beck, I just want my dings for the first 2 wins.
Of course.
We laid the points with Missouri. We laid the points with Arkansas. That's 2-0 start before we even got to Friday's action in Norman, Oklahoma. Temple and Oklahoma played. It was a 42-point number. I felt pretty good about laying the points with Oklahoma, and we got home with that. So it's a 3-0 start for us there. Not a lot to chew on in that game. Jackson Arnold had 4 touchdown passes, but I don't know that Temple is a quality outfit this year. So OU gets on the board there with their first win as an SEC team, but not a ton of actual content. The real content came starting at 11 o'clock on Saturday morning, and that's Clemson and Georgia. It was a 12-point number. And I just did not think that Clemson would be able to run the football on Georgia, which is what they want to do. Cade Klubnik's not back there throwing it 50 times. That's just not what's going to happen. And I was correct. Clemson could not run the football. They ran it 22 times for 47 yards, and they won by 31, which easily covered the number. So if you're scoring at home, that is a quality 4-0 start for me chronologically. Another game that started at 11 o'clock was Virginia Tech and Vanderbilt. Remember, I couldn't even remember who Vanderbilt was playing. We went through this. I thought it said UT. It said VT. And I talked about how Vanderbilt was my nemesis. I could not pick a Vanderbilt game right. And I said, you know what? 13.5 seems like way too short a line. That means Vegas knows something. Give me Vanderbilt. They win outright. That's a 5-0 start for your boy. I don't think Vanderbilt's got much of a pulse. That's a really good win for them. I felt good for Clark Lee. I make fun of Vanderbilt a lot. I don't know why. That's a really low-hanging fruit to make fun of. But they work really hard, and that's a great win for him. The problem I'm having with Vanderbilt is Diego Pavia in that game was the star. He was SEC's Offensive Player of the Week. But he ran the football 26 times. He's not a huge dude. You can do that the first game, but if he starts trying to run it 20 times a game, That's not going to go well. And LSU sees them way down the road in November. If he's running it 26 times a game, he won't be in that game. They need to find a way to do something else. But he was exciting nonetheless. That was a really fun game to watch. I didn't expect to watch much of Virginia Tech and Vanderbilt, but the Doors did get home, so that's a winner for me. This was maybe my easiest pick of the day. Tennessee-Chattanooga was at Tennessee. The line was 38.5. I actually texted my buddy who was in Vegas and said, you might want to go down and get some action on the Vols if you can early, and he did. When Tennessee, it's like the Chip Kelly Oregon teams. When they've got this blur speed and the talent gap is huge, there's nothing the other team can do. Like, some SEC teams can stand back and punch back at Tennessee when they get to that warp speed. Tennessee-Chattanooga can't. And that was very, very evident very, very early. It was 69-3. At halftime, the score was 45-0. So that was an easy cover there for the Vols. That, my friends, is a 6-0 start against the number for your boy.
Incredible.
Call me up, Jimmy Ott. I'm lighting it up. Now, things got a little dicey moving forward. I had Colorado State against Texas. They did not cover. Texas absolutely bludgeoned them. I didn't watch any of that game. I know Arch threw his first touchdown, but Texas, by all accounts, was very, very impressive in that game. Tigers don't play Texas this year, so I'm not as concerned with it. Then we go to Miami and Florida. I just whiffed on this one. I thought Florida would win at home. They looked atrocious, and I'll stop here and talk about this very briefly. That was an atrocious product Florida put on the field. Like, LSU lost, and it wasn't great. And A&M lost, and it wasn't great. But it was defensible. Like, it wasn't just terrible. Florida got absolutely manhandled on their home field. And I think the Florida fans maybe could have even lived with a tight loss where the offense looked good. Like, I think they could have dealt with 38-35 at the gun if Cam Ward throws for 365. Like, he's just a really good player, and Miami's got a bunch of guys in the transfer portal. Well, we're making progress. There was no progress shown for Florida in this game. None on offense, none on defense. Miami was taunting them on their own field in year 3 under Billy Napier. 41-17 was the final. I was completely wrong. I did think it was a little interesting that Mario Cristobal, up 3 scores in the fourth quarter, was doing reverse passes. Thought that was interesting. A little shot across the bow there. See Sunbelt Billy's talking about guys in their basement on Twitter making fun of Florida's team, and he didn't like that. Couldn't open a water bottle. That was tough. But he's not long for that gig, and I'll tell you, he's in line for a really nice check sometime around Thanksgiving. And that he could use however he would like, but he's not going to be coaching Florida's football team much longer. That was an atrocious effort by Florida in the swamp. 41-17 was the final. Another bad effort was South Carolina. They were a 21-point favorite over Old Dominion. I had South Carolina. I thought that they were going to try to get some brownie points there. It wasn't available. Old Dominion had a lead in that game in the fourth quarter, and it was all South Carolina could do to come out on top in that game. I thought Lenore Sellers looked like a really good athlete. I didn't think he looked like a very good passer. He's got talent, and I think there will be some days in SEC play where he gets hot and really starts rolling up some yards. They tried to get behind Rocket Sanders. They gave him the ball 24 times. He only gained 88 yards on those grabs. South Carolina just did not look very good, quite frankly. And I think LSU catches them at a good spot in the schedule in 2 weeks. Tigers can kind of lick their wounds this week against Nichols, who can't pose a threat, and then you got to ramp it back up and go there for a morning kickoff and play well. I don't expect South Carolina to be a very good football team this year, and that was on display in the game. I thought they'd come out and beat Old Dominion handily. They couldn't even handle that. They only won the game by 4 points, so that was a loser by me. Jeff Leviera got off to a good start for Mississippi State. They were a 24.5-point favorite. I took the Mississippi State Bulldogs in that one. 56-7 was the final score. Blake Shapen had a really good rating on Pro Football Focus. He threw for 247 and 3 touchdowns. But again, what is Eastern Kentucky? How much can you pull from that? Not very much. But it was a winner for me, so we'll take that. Western Kentucky was at Bama. 31.5 was the number. I didn't like TJ Finley's odds to go into Bryant-Denny and get much done there. I liked Bama to cover the 31.5, and they did it with ease. It was very comforting for me personally to look at that game on television and watch Nick Saban sitting in the suite with the golf shirt on instead of down there on the sideline screaming at people. Just gave me a little bit of comfort. But Kalen DeBoer's team looked pretty good. They won by 63 points over the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Jalen Milroe did have 200 yards on passing on the day. So let's see. What else was the this was a good pick by me. Let me give you the analysis I gave you for Furman and Ole Miss. It was a 42.5-point spread. I said, look, Ole Miss is going to run the ball a lot. That's going to run the clock. I think Furman might get a touchdown here or there. I like Furman to cover the 42.5. They lost by 76. So that was not a great call. I had a little bit too much trust in the Paladins there, and probably shouldn't have. Jackson Dart, 418 yards and 5 touchdowns, and Ole Miss's defense did look fast and physical. That looks like a pretty good team. Ole Miss looks good. I'm not going to try to read too much into Ole Miss and Furman, but I do think Ole Miss has a quality club this year, so that was a whiff on my part. Notre Dame and Texas A&M will spend a little time on this one. A&M was a 3-point favorite. I took them to cover the number, and they did not. Look, everyone is dumping on Connor Wigman today, and that's fine. He played very, very poorly. There's no two ways about it. 2 really bad interceptions. He only threw for like 100 yards. There were not a lot of open guys to throw to, and then when they did have some openings, he missed. It was a terrible effort against a good defense. And I think what I learned from Connor Wigman in this game was not that he's terrible. I think he is going to be up and down. And I think there will be some games where Connor Wigman gets hot and Colin Klein and that offense gets rolling a little bit, and I think there will be days like this. And Notre Dame, credit to Marcus Freeman and his staff, they came in ready. Their secondary was really, really physical. They did a great job stopping the run game, and they held Texas A&M to 13 points on Kyle Field. It wasn't a clinic by Riley Leonard in that Notre Dame offense, but they scored when they had to, and they ran the ball when they had to. And Notre Dame was the better team. They were more physical. They did a better job defensively. A&M is going to be okay this year. I think Wigman's going to be better than what he proved in that game, but it was a tough look, and A&M got some bad news today as their starting center is out for the season. That was announced by Mike Elko earlier today, so I did not get home with Texas A&M there. Look, the next one, this is a tough loss. I took Alabama A&M catching 57.5 on the Plains. I thought, man, 57.5, that's a comfy amount of points to get home. They lost by 70, so that was bad. Look, Alabama, I know they got routed by Vanderbilt last year. I knew that. I knew 2 years ago that they got crushed by UAB by like 60. But I thought 57.5, we can get home. They did not even get close. They were not within 2 scores of getting home 57.5. So Auburn wins at 73-3. And the last one, Southern Miss and Kentucky, I had the Wildcats minus the 27. That one did hit 31-0. Brock Vandegrift, not super impressive, just 169 yards, but did have 3 touchdowns passing through a lone interception. So Kentucky beats Southern Miss. That is a 9-6 week for me in Southeastern Conference play. Started 6-0, only 3-6 after that, but 9-6 is a pretty good start there, Beck.
It is a good start. These first few weeks are always interesting. They're kind of
You have to gauge whether or not teams want to cover.
Yeah, exactly. And it seemed like everybody wanted to in the SEC at least, except for, of course, South Carolina, who, man, that's tough at home and winning that game by 4 points.
I mean, they were the only team that couldn't separate. And I wonder if there isn't something to laying these big numbers because the teams the G5 teams that have good players, they leave.
Yeah.
And so they don't have older good players. Yep. And maybe that's a reason why some of these – I mean, these games have always been lopsided. Maybe it's a reason they're getting to be as bad as they are. But that's just maybe a theory of mine. I laid a lot of points over the weekend, and it paid. So, well, it didn't literally pay because I didn't put any money on it. But it worked out for me on these picks. So we're 3 games over 500 after a week. We'll keep building on that with more cupcakes coming up this week in Southeastern Conference play. All right, we'll get back to the LSU discussion. Some sound from Brian Kelly when we get back on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports, evolvept.com. If you've got pain or discomfort, no matter the cause, whether it's from sleeping wrong, being injured in an accident, being injured in athletics, whatever the case may be, you need physical therapy. You need rehabilitation. Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports can help you with that. You're never going to come into Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports, get handed a list of stretches, and have some physical therapist go do paperwork while you stretch. That's not rehabilitation. You're going to get hands-on treatment from the therapist at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. They'll do the soft tissue manipulation. They can handle your cupping, dry needling, whatever the case may be. They've got the ability to do isokinetic testing. If you're looking to regain some strength after it's been taken away, whether it's been from surgery or an injury of some sort, They can do all that at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. Robbie Bolton's been at this for 2 decades here in Baton Rouge. Professional athletes have trusted their bodies with Robbie Bolton. You should too. There's no age that's incorrect here. You could be a youth athlete, 9-year-old gymnastics athlete, or you could be someone in your 60s or 70s trying to get back out on the golf course or on the tennis court. Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports is here to help you. They're on Starring near Highland Road. You can check them out online, evolvept.com. It's Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports, evolvept.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
We're Rev Business, a local provider with nearly 90 years of experience. So when it comes to business in Louisiana, we know that personalized service is key. And we're here to go the extra mile with all fiber solutions that deliver what every business needs: reliability and quality. We're not just providers. We're the local team dedicated to helping you succeed. True partnerships are homegrown. Rev Business, internet, phone, managed services. Visit us at letsrev.biz.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hope your week's off to a good start. Hope you're enjoying your Labor Day holiday. Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Brian Kelly met with the media after the game last night. It was about as animated as Brian Kelly has been in his time at LSU. We've seen a Brian Kelly for 3 years now that has been pretty relaxed and pretty comfortable. And I don't know what to read into that. I don't know if that comes with age. You know, Sean Payton, he mellowed a ton with age in New Orleans. He realized it didn't do any good to be adversarial with the media. And you saw a guy that had some fire to him at times, but was generally a pretty mild-mannered guy in a lot of press conferences. There were exceptions. When you're at a place for that long, of course there are exceptions, but you saw him mellow at time, and maybe that's what happened to Brian Kelly when he got here, or maybe he's just a guy that's got a $100 million contract, and that makes life a lot more palatable. But he was fiery last night, and that was interesting to see. He talked about being angry with his team.
Yeah, I think it's the first time since I've been here that I'm pretty angry at our football team. And, you know, first of all, from a big picture, we didn't play complementary football. When we did some good things on the offensive side of the ball, we didn't complement that defensively, and vice versa. But the thing that is most concerning for me are the personal fouls, the penalties that are selfish. Both of them led to scores, and they're undisciplined penalties. Effectively, they fall back on me. We take pride in running a disciplined program, but we have clearly not done a good enough job there because it impacted the game.
And we talked about the penalties 25 minutes ago at the end of hour number 1, and I respect him taking responsibility for that, and that's fine. And if you want to pin Kyron Lacey doing that or Major Burns doing that on the coach, I'll just politely, very mildly disagree with you and say guys should know better. I don't think that has to be coached. You got to coach some things in football. I don't know that don't shoot a gun off in the end zone after a touchdown is one of the things that has to be repped in practice. Just that should be pretty simple to figure out. But he was upset with the way that some of his older players handled themselves, and we heard him slam a table at one point.
1 second, hold on.
Okay, we'll hold on. It's been a spot that is obviously, that this has garnered a lot of kind of national news. This was the scene, I think, from the press conference when he went ahead and slammed on that table.
Hell yes. I mean, and that's what I said to the team. I said, we had some guys played their butts off tonight, and we're sitting here again. We're sitting here again talking about the same things. About not finishing when you have an opponent in a position to put them away. But what we're doing on the sideline is feeling like the game's over. And I'm so angry about it that I got to do something about it. I'm not doing a good enough job as a coach. And I got to coach him better because it's unacceptable for us not to have found a way to win this football game. It's ridiculous.
And I can't speak to what he's referencing on the sideline with the game is over. I mean, LSU never had a 2-score lead or anything. I mean, they had the ball with the lead, but they weren't like they were in striking distance to score. I mean, things could have really turned if Weeks catches that tipped interception off the Savion Jones on the 4th down and you gain even more yards. But there was never a point where you could feel like you could exhale, and I don't know what he's speaking to on the sideline that made him feel like the team thought they were going to, quote, the game was won. And he talked about their killer instinct or lack thereof.
Unfortunately, it's clear that when we get up in a game, we do not know how to handle ourselves. You got to have a killer instinct in this game. You got to put teams away. We had an opportunity to put this team away, and we get complacent. We make more mistakes when we're ahead instead of having a better focus and a steely-eyed killer instinct, and that's disappointing. And so I'm angry at those things, that I have to do a better job in shaping that in this group, because we had guys that played hard tonight. I mean, we had guys that wanted to win and were prepared to win, but those two things just, eat at me, and, they got to get fixed.
I don't like cliches. And so killer instinct is one of those. I don't know exactly what he means by that. Like, I would have liked LSU to finish the game off when they're down 17-20 and you're driving towards the end zone late in the game and you got to get in the end zone and score a touchdown. And I don't know that I would suggest that lack of a killer instinct is why Garrett Nussmeier missed Aaron Anderson from 7 yards away. Like that lack of a killer instinct, that's just a bad throw. He just made a bad throw. And I don't know that lack of a killer instinct is why LSU didn't cover a little bit better or get a little bit more pass rush with a lead or when the game was tied and USC's going down there to try to put the winning score in. Like, killer instinct, I don't know what that means. They may not be good enough in that instant. They may not have played well enough. Like, let me bring it back to a baseball analogy because it's the first thing that came to my mind. But like, if you've got a guy out there and he forgets how many outs there are and gets doubled off first base because he thinks there's 2 outs and there's only 1, like, that's not being checked into the game. That's a lack of focus. I can absolutely point to that as not being locked in the way you're supposed to be. In this instance, guys not making plays, like, I don't know, that just kind of feels like a cliche. Yes, I want LSU to salt that game away. You had, I don't know what the win probability was when LSU was driving late, down by 3 in the red zone with 2 minutes and change left in the game. I don't know what the win probability was, but I would guess it's north of 50%, just based on the fact that the teams are pretty even. You've got the ball. Your scoring probability is really good in the red zone. Even if it's a field goal, you're looking potentially at overtime. And then if you get a touchdown, you've got now a lead late in the game, and that obviously is going to give you a higher win probability. So I think LSU's win probability was probably really good at that point when they get down there into the red area. But you didn't play well when you got down there. You made a bad throw, and then you couldn't convert a third down, so you had to kick a field goal. And so I don't know if I'm going lack of a killer instinct. Now, not getting the ball in the end zone, that was a concern for LSU in this game. In fact, this is number 4 from Kelly. Like, that was a big problem. You obviously stalled a drive on your opening drive, and you had 2 other opportunities to get into the end zone from the red area, and you weren't able to do it, and Kelly obviously didn't love that.
Look, we could sit here and we could go and, look at a million different things. But, we had over 400 yards in total offense. We weren't able to put the ball in the end zone when we really needed to. And so this is much more about being a much better and efficient offense in the red zone than it is the failings of the inability to run. We ran the ball well enough to set up everything else that we needed to do. Do I want to run the ball better? Absolutely. There's no doubt. I think our execution needs to get better. But having said that, we ran the ball well enough to win this game. But you can't win it if you don't score touchdowns in the areas that we won or come away with nothing from the 3-yard line.
I just vehemently disagree with Brian Kelly and the suggestion that LSU ran the ball well enough to win the game. You did not run the ball well enough to win the game. Why? Because you didn't run the ball in the red zone and get it into the end zone, which is what he just said, and you had a 3rd down and 1 on a drive that you could have taken control of the game in, and you couldn't run it for a yard. So you didn't run it well enough to win the game. If you're just looking at the number of yards that you ran for, it's not a disaster. It wasn't like you had 30 carries for 14 yards, but you didn't run it when you needed to. You busted 2 runs. I led the show with this. You didn't run it well enough to win the game. You ran it a little bit worse than mediocre. And behind this offensive line that everyone's lauded for the entire offseason, this is like a failure in my estimation in the run game. And it's because of the red area and your inability to get a yard when you absolutely positively had to have it late in the game. Not good to me at all. I did think Garrett Nussmeier played pretty well, and Brian Kelly talked about his quarterback and what was kind of his first start. We'll go to the bowl game, sure, but this was basically his first effort.
I mean, I think Garrett did some really good things. I think there's probably a couple that he would like back, I think there's, like any first game, really, against a good opponent. I mean, I think he did enough for us to win the football game. But, when we needed a couple of plays, I think there's a couple of things he'd like to do better. But he's going to be really good for us, and he'll get better from today.
I thought Garrett Nussmeier's play was good. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't great. Yes, he kind of threw it away on a 4th and goal in that opening drive. Yes, he did bail on a couple of throws, one where Trey'Dez Green was running down the sideline and he just kind of winged it to nowhere. He missed the throw to Aaron Anderson that you'd really like to have back. It was not perfect, but it was a solid B performance from Garrett Nussmeier. He looked pretty comfortable most of the game. He was clean most of the game. He threw for 304 yards and 2 touchdowns. The touchdown pass to Lacey was awesome. It was a nice read on the touchdown pass to Aaron Anderson on the crossing route as well. I thought he did a good job. I tweeted this out in the game. I said, look, if there were questions about Garrett Nussmeier, and how well he could run the offense. I think a lot of those are answered at this point. We saw enough in the bowl game and through this game now to know that he can make all the throws. It's not like he's putting the ball in harm's way a ton. He is comfortable in the pocket. He extends plays. He's getting LSU into the right. Like he's doing a good job. He's a highly functional SEC quarterback at this point, and I think he's only going to get better. Matt talked about this a lot on his show, AFR, all offseason. Mettenberger's first year as a starter, even though he's an older player, was just okay. Burrow's first year as a starter here was good. It wasn't phenomenal. And then Jaden Daniels' first year as a starter here was good. It wasn't phenomenal. And all those guys in their second year at LSU catapulted to great, great things. 2 Heisman trophies and then a 3,000-yard season. And he kind of thought that was probably a fair real expectation for Nussmeier in this year to be pretty good, but not spectacular, not a first-team all-league quarterback. And that's kind of what I think you saw in the game last night. I will be comfortable and confident with Garrett Nussmeier taking the ball in every game this year and think he'll give LSU a chance to win. There's nobody I look at on the schedule and say LSU can't beat that team. If Georgia was on the schedule, I would say that. But they're not. I thought he was okay in the game. I thought he was not quite good enough to win, but pretty good, and I'm confident with him moving forward. So that's it for LSU and Southern Cal. Pretty much. We'll make it briefly back into it at the end of the show. When we come back, some Saints news out of practice today. We'll talk about that coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio, video, security solutions, avssla.com is that website. The golf season is in full swing. It's summertime. It is a little bit warm. If you're a golfer, don't love going to the driving range in 1,000 degrees or have trouble finding a tee time here or there, how about a golf simulator in your house? That's something you've never considered. Audio, video, security solutions can install those at your home. They have done it before, and they'd be happy to help you with it again. So a lot of people are like, that sounds great. I don't even know where to start. Well, call Mitchell Fisher and his team at Audio, Video, Security Solutions. His cell phone number is 225-439-7920. Again, that's 225-439-7920. Say, hey, Mitchell, I was listening to Hunt's show. I want to put a golf simulator in. Can you help me with that? They absolutely can. You can practice your game indoors. Don't have to deal with tee times or all the heat. You can play Pebble Beach. You can play Augusta National on your golf simulator. And Audio Video Security Solutions can help you every single step of the way. Go to their Instagram feed. It's AVSS_BR. AVSS_BR. You can see pictures and some videos of their fantastic work. It's Audio Video Security Solutions. AVSSLA.com.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink, or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Oh four five ESPN Baton Rouge and Shell are excited to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Tiger Stadium with our Draw to 100 sweepstakes. We're giving you the opportunity to join in the VIP-style celebrations on October 12th for the Ole Miss game. Sign up today at 1045ESPN.com. We'll live stream the drawing on October 10th, and the 100th name drawn will win Stadium Club seats, sideline passes, and autographed memorabilia. It's the Draw to 100 sweepstakes presented by Shell, the Rhythm of Louisiana.
Oh, baby, some Stadium Club seats. We like that. I was actually in the Stadium Club last night in Tiger Stadium, which was completely empty. Our new studio for pre- and post-game for road games is inside Tiger Stadium, deep in the guts of the south end zone. And went in there and took the elevator up to get to the stadium. And then I was like, I wonder if I can go all the way up and see what's going on inside the stadium. So I went all the way up to club level, completely empty, went out and kind of sat in one of the seats. A little bit eerie to be in a 102,000 seat stadium completely alone, by the only sign of humanity there. But lovely amenities in the Stadium Club, and it should be an enjoyable time for whoever wins that prize, because that's a good spot to hang out. Unfortunately, I then went inside and watched the football game, and that wasn't what a ton of fun. So let's not talk about that. Let's talk about the Saints. Speaking of not a lot of fun, Willie Gay Jr. Missed Saints practice today. Which was news to those who were there and reporting on it. Ross Jackson has an attendance report up at LouisianaSports.net right now. You can go check that out for free if you want to. But Willie Gay was not there. Dennis Allen spoke with the media afterwards and said that Gay was dealing with an injury and that he was not going to disclose any specifics on it. The Saints don't have to release an injury report until Wednesday of this week for their opener on Sunday. So we'll learn more about Willie Gay coming up on Wednesday. But that's not great news. You feel really good about where the Saints are at linebacker. Obviously, Demario Davis, when healthy, which is always until this camp, is as good an inside back as there is in the NFL, and he's expected to be ready to go in the game on Sunday. Pete Werner has had a nice camp, and the Saints feel really good about him, signed him to a new deal, so that's a guy that they really trust. And then Willie Gay has been a great signing. They brought him in from Kansas City, and he's looked excellent so far in camp. And those three give the Saints defense a really solid core right there in the middle. But you're talking about an injury that Dennis Allen didn't want to talk about. And that just allows me to speculate. This is certainly not sourced or any confirmed information. But I feel like if it was an absolute nothing burger, Dennis Allen would have said, yeah, no big deal. He'll be back on Tuesday. But to say, yeah, we're not going to talk about it, that makes me feel a little bit nervous about where things are at this point in the week. It's a long way from game day, but the Saints would really like to have Willie Gay available to them in game one against Carolina. Other players that were not seen during the practice portion, Colin Saunders is not there. We understand he's injured and is going to miss a little bit of time. That's why the Saints made the move that they did. DeMarco Jackson was not there. Jalen Ford not there either. There were a couple of guys that were there. Nick Saldiveri made his return to the field. Media only saw the individuals there, but he was there and was limited in his participation. Isaiah Stallbird was there as well. Two guys that were there but not participating were Dallin Holker and Kendre Miller. Of course, Kendre Miller is on IR at this point, so you don't expect to see him doing much of anything for a while. Every time we bring up Kendre Miller, I kind of bristle, and maybe that's unfair because you're hurt, you're hurt. There's not much you can do once you're hurt. You just got to let it heal. You got to wait. And it just feels like it's been forever since we could see anything from Kendre Miller. The first 5 minutes of camp, he misses the entirety of training camp and preseason practice and a couple of weeks of the season. That just seems almost impossible for someone to get hurt in a non-contact portion of drill with no pads on and miss 8 weeks. But here we are, and the Saints obviously think enough of him to keep him around at this point. This is not new news, obviously. We've known about Kendre Miller in this situation for weeks, but every time it gets brought up, I'm like, oh, this guy could have anybody out there actually practicing, but they're not here. And so that's kind of the news of the day for New Orleans. We'll see if we can get an update on Willie Gay as of Wednesday. Certainly tomorrow we'll chat with Sharif Ishak about the Saints. Luke will join us on Thursday, and we'll have some more information as the Saints crank things up at noon at home against Carolina coming up this week. I'm trying to conjure up some excitement for the Saints opener. They really need to win it, by the way. We'll talk about it as the week progresses. But the Saints, who dealt with a litany of injuries throughout camp, none that seemed too significant, appear to be kind of rounding back into form as far as health goes, and they should be relatively healthy, as you would expect and hope, in week 1 of the season that cranks up on Sunday. Our Monday shows are brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com, GCOPnet.com. I give you this analogy all the time with Gulf Coast Office Products because it is so true. In any line of work, you can deal with the big national box store, and they've got all the capabilities in the world, but how's your customer service? Are you just kind of a line item to them? You make a phone call, does anybody answer? Do you get a recorded line? They maybe get back to you via email with an at the team type situation. Well, that's not what you want. And then maybe you can do business with the mom and pop store, and they'll always pick up the phone, but do they have the capability to actually service your needs? Gulf Coast Office Products is a beautiful marriage of both of those. Talking about a company that's big enough to have $1 million of inventory right here in Baton Rouge. They can service statewide as well. They've got plenty of capabilities for all your printing, scanning, copying needs. They also are incredibly personable and got a great local team that's going to give you fantastic customer service. They've got a maintenance team that can be at the ready at any point if you're having some issues, and you're going to have a great relationship with your rep, whether it's Trey or any of the other folks over at Gulf Coast Office Products. For your printing, scanning, copying needs, it's Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com, GCOPnet.com. All right, when we come back, we'll play some Take It or Leave It, and that'll be it for a Labor Day edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
I have had a blast getting to kind of dive into the Cover 5 app over at Penn. It's been fantastic. I want you to sign up for the SEC contest. You can do that if you join, get the Penn Play app, and then you get the Cover 5 app as well. Enter the code LABRSEC24. It's a really cool game. You pick 5 games against the point spread, and however many points the actual outcome is away from the spread, if you cover, you get that amount of points. So look, if it's a 31-point line, your team wins by 70. Well, all of a sudden, you get 28 points in addition to that, and you compete with me. I was middle of the pack this week, but it's been really fun. I'm enjoying it, and I'm going to get back into it coming up this week. If you're not a member, get the Penn Play app today. LeBear's Baton Rouge is your live sports headquarters. Got to be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-589-9966 for help.
There's nothing chill about a hot, sweaty line. Unless you add Mountain Cold Refreshment. Coors Light. Choose chill.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz vans.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
All right, let's close up shop here. Labor Day edition of the Hunt Palmer Show presented by Gulf Coast Office Products. A lot of LSU and USC conversation, unfortunately, but we've done this show on Labor Day for 2 straight years after a loss, and why not just go ahead and make it 3? That's a place to take it or leave it.
All right, first one here. T-Bob's performance on Whiskey and Wine. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. There was some profanity. There were some beers. There were some beers. He came out hot with a quite a nice opening 10 seconds there. The guys were sad. The guys were really bummed out, and I get it. And that show got a lot of views. Matt talked about this at SEC Media Days. How many people are coming up saying I watch that every time LSU loses? I mean, they had 5,000 viewers right out of the gate on that thing, and I haven't checked the view count to this point.
I think it's like 36,000.
36,000 views.
Like
I mean, look, trust me, I'm guilty as anybody. When A&M loses, I'm right there to Texas. Like I'm going. When Arkansas loses, I'm going right to Hogville. Like look, I'm all about it. I like to relish in the misery of others, and when LSU's got some misery, it is readily available to others. I've got so the folks I do a Shreveport show with every Wednesday despise LSU. Were very open with that. They were texting me about Whiskey and Wine earlier today. They were like, "Who's this guy in the middle?" That's Russ Mitchell. They got to watch. They would never watch if LSU had won that game by 20 points. If LSU loses, they're in. So yeah, T-Bob was on one last night. There's no doubt.
Follow up on that one. T-Bob's performance on OTB this morning. Take it or leave it.
I'm told they limped to the finish line this morning. I did listen a little bit early, but I was solo with the Myers man this morning. His mom was sleeping in a bit, so I got up after 3 hours of sleep and was dealing with him. I did not hear the entire show, but apparently they really limped to the finish line, as you would expect. You're talking about they got there on Thursdays. He had Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday. They had 4 nights in Vegas.
Yep.
That's a long time.
And then they're starting the show at 5 a.m. Yeah.
5 a.m.
Yep.
That's a tough scene.
It is. Moving on here, LSU is making a mistake scheduling these huge openers. Take it or leave it.
I'm torn on this. I really am. Like I could argue it either way, but like truth be told, I'm torn because I think there's something to be taken from it. Like we saw last year that Georgia was not given the benefit of the doubt because their schedule stunk. They had 1 loss. It was to Bama in the SC championship game in a close game. and they got left out because they didn't have anything on their schedule. So it tells me that there is a chance that schedule strength does matter. But you lose them, it's a disaster. Like, you'd much rather beat Nichols by 70 than lose to Florida State and USC. And you could, I guess the easy thing to say is, we'll just schedule them and win them. That's what LSU did for 15 years, just schedule them and win them. But that's not really what we're talking about. What we're talking about is it a good idea to put this risk in play, because you're not forced to do it. You can go schedule Rutgers. Like, you can do that. They're a Power 5, and they can come to your house and you can beat them by 30. But it's not slowing down anytime soon, so it doesn't make any sense to complain about it too much. Clemson's the next 2 years, so here we go.
Yep, that's right. Moving on, Iowa. You called it, Hunt. They scored 40 this weekend.
They sure did.
The Hawkeyes are a juggernaut. Take it or leave it.
Going to leave that. Not ready to call them a juggernaut just yet, but that would be categorized as an offensive explosion. For them to go for 40, that's about a month's worth of points in the Brian Ferentz offense. Where is he, by the way?
Yeah,
he got another gig.
Yeah, we figured it out. He's like an assistant. I can't remember where at.
Well, we need to figure it out and get to the window for some sort of underplay.
Yeah.
Because that stench is thick. That's like Seinfeld, the odor in the car. It just doesn't go anywhere. That's got to be what Brian Ferentz is, because for him to put that offense out there at Iowa the last couple of years in this era of sports, of college football, is really impressive. I need to see where he's coaching so we can find out how to get an underplay on.
All right, last one here, Hunt. We've got some positivity. The Cubs are 3 games back in the wild card. They've won 12 of their last 15. Take it or leave it.
I mean, you got to take it.
I'll take
This is fantastic stuff. They've scored more runs than anybody since 1900 in their last 10 games. They scored 10 runs in every game. It's unbelievable. Pete Crow Armstrong went from hitting a $140 to hitting 500.
Yep.
Nobody can get him out. He's running all over the place.
Amaya's hitting bombs.
I mean, this is the content people want after an LSU game. They want to hear about the bottom third of the Cubs order and how those guys are bashing against the Nationals. That's what people tune in for. They don't want to hear about Garrett Nussmeier throwing a late interception. They don't want to hear about penalties. They don't care about the fact that LSU goes for it on 4th downs early in seasons, early in drives. They just want to hear about the bottom third of the Cubs order.
Yep.
They want Mikel Amaya content. They want to hear about what Dansby Swanson's looking like. What about Nico Horner, the Gold Club duo up the middle? That's what the people always tune in for. And look,
we're going to bring it to you.
That we are. And, I mean, I've declared the Cubs season over. I still think that they're in some significant trouble
weeks
because
ago.
They've got 2 teams to jump over. But it is September, and they're in it. And if we're going to tie this back to college football, the MLB expanded the playoffs to some massive number, and it just keeps everybody involved. And that's why expanding the college football playoff is great. And now I'm looking at this screen right now, and they're saying LSU has a 6% chance to make the college football playoff after this loss to USC.
That's not a lot of percent.
That's not a lot of percent, but it is a chance. T-Bob was saying this morning, like, LSU's chances are done, that they're not going to go 7-1 in the league. They've gone 6-2 the last 2 years. They're not going to go 7-1. And I can get on board with that's unlikely, but their hard games are still at home, and I don't think, like, Florida, this is going to be hard for them to get off the mat. They just look terrible. LSU did not look terrible.
No.
So I'm willing to suggest that they can potentially rebound.
Yes.
And here's the goal now. What you have to do, because the Nichols game is stupid, nobody cares, and UCLA is awful. They didn't score a point against Hawaii in the first half over the weekend. Your goal is to beat UCLA and beat South Carolina and just find a way to get to the bye week to get ready for Ole Miss.
Yep.
Ole Miss has got to come here. If you've won every game for a month and they come here, that stadium's going to be loud, and all of a sudden you beat Ole Miss and people are going to be singing a different tune. That's the goal at this point for LSU. Get to the bye week undefeated post this
The thing that I immediately thought to is, like, after the first game, the last few years, you just felt so dejected. 2 years ago, that Florida State game was so dejecting.
That was bad.
And I just think back, like, okay, after that game, did anyone think LSU had a remote chance of beating Alabama?
No.
No way. So for me, you have to just watch that game and just look forward to the rest of the season and believe and understand that LSU has a chance to win all these games. They do. I'm not saying they will, but they have a chance to do it, and they're all at home.
The point is they can win each individual game.
Yes.
Their odds of winning enough of them in totality is not good anymore.
Yeah.
They needed to win that game last night, and they didn't get it done. And we talked about it a lot. So we'll probably do more of it coming up on tomorrow's show. So a programming note. Jimmy and Charlie are flying back tomorrow. So they will not do live at lunch. I will handle those duties, and we will start, I believe, at 10 a.m. tomorrow on their normal Monday schedule. Why? Because Brian Kelly's press conference is tomorrow, which is normally on Monday. Instead, it's on Tuesday this week. So I'm going to crank up at 10 o'clock. I'll go for about an hour and 40 minutes or so, hand it off to Chris Blair and Gordy Rush, then Brian Kelly's press conference. I'll come back, close out live at lunch, and then do my 2 hours as well. So it'll be like 3.5 hours of me between 10 and 3 o'clock, sandwiched around a Brian Kelly press conference. So it'll be a lot of action tomorrow on the show. But curious to see what Brian Kelly has to say. And now get ready for another game week with LSU and Nichols coming up on Saturday night in Death Valley. If you missed any of today's show, catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound. You can always find us. Search Hunt Palmer Show. Like, subscribe, rate, and review. We always appreciate that. I opened talking about LSU's inability to run the football. That's a huge story for me, and I opened with that. There's also a column about it on LouisianaSports.net. Talked about the defense as well. Some good, some not so good. Denton Day from SiriusXM talked national college football headlines. We talked penalties, SEC picks against the spread, some Saints as well. You can find all of it on demand. That's it for us here on this Labor Day. Musso is going to drive you home. Matt's on a jet plane back to Baton Rouge. I'm going to the pool. We're back tomorrow with another edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group. Jonathan Carbo and his team at Highland Insurance Group. All your commercial property and casualty needs, all your commercial benefits and group employee benefits needs can be met with the Highland Insurance Group as well. It's a one-stop shop over there at the Highland Insurance Group. Insurance is not a lot of fun to talk about. I was in it for 10 years. I know that, but it's a necessity for businesses. And if you don't pay a lot of attention to your insurance, you're not really sure what your policies say, probably a good idea to have those audited and make sure that there's someone handling those policies for you that can put your business in a position where you don't have to worry about the next cyber breach or the next hurricane that rolls through. The Highland Insurance Group can help you with that. They're right here in Baton Rouge. Jonathan's been doing it for about a decade. You can find them online. It's highlandig.com. Again, that website, highlandig.com. Commercial, for personal, benefits, property and casualty, all those wrapped into one. It's a one-stop shop over there at the Highland Insurance Group.